Hindi ko pa mapaniwala. Maraming salamat sa suporta. Sana patuloy yung suporta niyo sa akin. Kamusta mga kapong Pinoy? Surprise! Excited na akong imbitahin kayong lahat na manood sa mga laban ko sa Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open.
The day a tiny nation broke the Australian Open will live in tennis infamy forever. It was January 2026 at Melbourne Park, during the so-called Happy Slam, a tournament known for relaxed vibes and barbecue summers, yet nothing was relaxed on the second Monday, especially on Court 6. What looked like a riot was actually history in the making as security barriers strained under thousands of fans climbing fences, hanging off railings, and chanting so loudly that players on Rod Laver Arena, 3 courts away, could hear the roar. Organizers panicked, police were called, and the fire marshal threatened to shut the area down. But this chaos wasn't for Nadal's farewell or a Djokovic showdown, it was for a 20-year-old Filipina, Eala. In a monumental miscalculation, tournament officials placed the hottest rising star in women's tennis, the pride of 115 million Filipinos, on a side court that held only a few hundred people. Witness Michael Jang later summed it up perfectly. "We underestimated her far too much," noting that the media attention was 20 times greater than that given to Grand Slam champions. Although the match ended in a loss, it didn't matter because that day, a small tennis nation didn't just show up, it overthrew the establishment, exposed the collapse of Australian Open logistics, and forced the world to recognize a new reality. The Philippines has arrived in tennis, louder, prouder, and more passionate than anyone was ready for, and the Court 6 revolution was only the beginning. Manila is where the next chapter is about to be written, and this is the story of Eala the world. Number 49 and the week that changed everything. Buckle up, because this is Champions Tennis, and to understand what really happened in Melbourne, you have to look beyond the headlines. The mainstream news told you Eala lost to American power server Alicia Parks, that the score was 0-6, 6-3, 6-2, but they didn't show you the fear in the organizers' eyes. The Australian Open Scheduling Committee treats the draw like a math equation. Top seeds go to Rod Laver or Margaret Court Arena, while lower seeds and unseeded players are sent to the parking lot courts, and despite cracking the top 50, Eala was still viewed as just another young player. What they forgot was the puso factor, Tagalog for hard, but in sports, a word that represents an unyielding, almost terrifying dedication to one's country. When the schedule dropped, the Filipino diaspora in Australia, one of the largest communities in the country, mobilized like an army, buying ground passes not for Alcaraz but for Eala. By 10 a.m. Court 6 was full, by 10:30 the walkways were blocked, and by 11 o'clock the crowd had spilled into the dining areas. When Eala walked out, the sound was deafening, not polite tennis applause, but basketball arena noise, a roar like a jet engine taking off inside a library. Controversy followed immediately, because tennis etiquette demands silence during points and restrained applause, yet the Filipino crowd cheered everything: winners, towel breaks, even Alicia Parks' double faults. The media called it unsportsmanlike, the fans called it passion, and Parks herself later admitted she was rattled. Who wouldn't be? It felt like playing an away match in a Davis Cup final, except this was supposed to be a neutral first round at a Grand Slam, and the Court 6 collapse wasn't about a structure falling apart, it was about the old rules of tennis atmosphere finally breaking. It wasn't the collapse of a physical structure, it was the collapse of the old tennis world order. The moment the sport realized it no longer belonged only to the polite elite but to the masses, to nations that had been starving for a hero. And while Eala lost that match, with Park's serve simply too fast on the day, the message was unmistakably sent: you cannot hide Eala on Court 6 ever again. The Australian Open learned what happens when you underestimate the power of an entire nation finding its voice through one player, and tournament directors around the world took notice. This was no longer just about court assignments, it was about recognizing a seismic demographic shift in tennis, with the Philippines leading the charge. Now shift your gaze from the heat of Melbourne to the humid, electric air of Manila. After that chaotic Australian Open exit, Eala didn't head to Europe or return to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, she flew home, because history was waiting. For the first time ever, the Philippines is hosting a WTA 125 event, the Philippine Women's Open, a moment decades in the making for Filipino tennis fans who had long survived on grainy live streams or expensive flights to Singapore or Tokyo just to watch professional tennis. Now the tour has come to them, and the timing feels cinematic. The tournament will be held at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center, hallowed ground that has witnessed generations of sporting history but has never hosted a WTA-sanctioned event of this magnitude. The Philippine Sports Commission, led by Patrick Pato Gregorio, moved mountains to make it the first major sports project of 2026, and at the center of it all is the face of the tournament. The reason tickets are selling out: the player who sparked a revolution, Eala. Faster than K-pop concerts, tickets sold out for the girl who broke court 6. Eala arrived in Manila to a hero's welcome, yet the most fascinating part of the moment was her calm, remarkably, almost eerily so. Despite the chaos she unleashed in Australia, despite being named co-athlete of the year alongside world champions, and despite climbing to a career-high world ranking of 49, Eala remained grounded. At the press conference, reporters practically begged her for a bold soundbite, a promise of a title on home soil, but she simply smiled and said, "I never go into any tournament thinking to win the whole thing. Although this is at home, my mindset is no different. I take it match by match. I will do everything I can to win the first one." That was the Rafa Nadal training, speaking match by match, humble, disciplined, and professional, and it's driving fans slightly crazy because they don't want patience, they want a coronation. Yet this measured approach is exactly what makes Eala so dangerous on the court. She doesn't get ahead of herself, and she never lets the moment play her. She doesn't let the moment become bigger than the match, a maturity that belies her 20 years and explains why she's handled pressure that has crushed so many other young players. In Manila, the expectations are suffocating. Her face is on every billboard, her chances are debated on every sports talk show, and social media burns with predictions and prayers as an entire nation pauses to watch one of its own compete at the highest level on home soil. Yet through it all, Eala remains centered, focused, and ready. Before previewing the upcoming match, it's worth understanding why the weight is so heavy, because if you slept on Eala's 2025 season, you missed one of the greatest rises in Asian tennis history. That was the year she stopped being a prospect and became a predator. She didn't just climb the rankings, she tore through them, starting the year outside the top 140 and finishing inside the top 50. Then came the Miami Miracle, entering the Miami Open as a wild card, written off as too small and too inexperienced. She responded by taking down 3 giants: Iga Swiatek, Jelena Ostapenko, and Madison Keys, announcing to the world that she wasn't just arriving, she was here to hunt. Beating the world's number 1 and 2 Grand Slam finalists in a single week wasn't luck, it was a statement. The tennis world had been sleeping on this left-hander from Manila, and she woke them up with a thunderclap. Beating Swiatek alone would have been the story of the year for most players, but Eala didn't stop there, following it up by dismantling Jelena Ostapenko's raw power and outsmarting Madison Keys in a tactical masterclass. Then came Grand Slam history at the US Open, where she broke the curse by becoming the first Filipino to win a main draw match, a breakthrough moment for a nation that had been knocking on the door of tennis relevance for decades. It wasn't just one win, it was proof that Filipino players belonged on the sport's biggest stages, sending shockwaves through Philippine sports media and igniting a tennis boom that is still growing. The momentum carried into 2026, and just weeks ago in January she stormed the semi-finals of the ASB Classic in New Zealand, beating heavy hitters like Donna Vekic and Magdalena Freck in wins that were anything but flukes. These were comprehensive dismantlings of experienced tour veterans, players with Grand Slam quarterfinals and finals on their resumes, as Eala outthought them, out-hit them, and, most importantly, outworked them when it mattered most. She is no longer the junior champion who won the 2022 US Open girls title. She is something else entirely. She is now a tour-level threat, a left-hander with a whip-like forehand that finds angles most players don't even see, Nadal-like grit forged through years at his academy, and the court craft of a seasoned veteran. Her serve, once labeled a weakness, has become a weapon, her movement on hard courts is exceptional, and her mental game is where she truly separates herself from the pack. But fame has a price, and the Eala mania in the Philippines is very real. She isn't just a tennis player anymore, she exists on the level of Manny Pacquiao in his prime. When she eats, it's news. When she trains, people stop to watch. Her social media posts rack up hundreds of thousands of interactions within minutes. Brands are lining up to sponsor her, and the government is considering her for national honors, all while she now has to perform in front of everyone. Eala admitted it feels surreal to see a home tournament finally come to life, saying she's deeply grateful and still a little in disbelief that it's actually happening, explaining that it feels like this dream was so far away not long ago, and now it's real. There's vulnerability in those words, an acknowledgement that she's living something that once felt impossible. Consider her journey, leaving the Philippines as a young girl to train in Spain, away from family and familiarity, grinding through the ITF circuit in small Eastern European towns, staying in budget hotels, eating whatever she could afford, enduring injuries, losses, and the constant doubt of whether she would ever break through. Now she's home not as a struggling prospect, but as a top 50 player, a national hero, and the centerpiece of a historic tournament. The emotional weight is enormous, and the stage is set at the Rizal Memorial Tennis Center for a round of 32 clash at the Philippine Women's Open against Eala Kariva. Don't let the ranking fool you. Kariva sits at world number 169, but she is dangerous, a neutral athlete from Russia, from a system known for producing brutally trained players who hit the ball flat, hard, and without fear. Russian training regimens are infamous for producing players with rock-solid fundamentals and ruthless mental toughness, and here's the detail that makes this matchup truly spicy. They have history. These two are not strangers. They met back in 2020 on the ITF circuit in Spain, when Eala was just 15 years old, still searching for her identity on the professional tour and still building her game. Kariva won that match in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3, a comprehensive defeat, the kind that lingers in the memory. That result sits in the record books, and both players know it. In tennis, head-to-head history matters. It creates psychological edges, allowing Kariva to walk onto the court knowing she's beaten Eala before, familiar with her patterns and tendencies from that earlier encounter. But that was 2020. That was a different era, a different player, a girl. The woman stepping onto the court in Manila is something else entirely. Eala was gracious when asked about her opponent, saying she had met her before, that Kariva is a very nice person and a great player, and that she would simply prepare to the best of her ability. Classic Eala, diplomatic and respectful. But make no mistake, Kariva is walking into the lion's den. If she thought the Australian Open crowd was intense, she has no idea what awaits her in Manila, because the home of the Filipinos isn't a slogan anymore, it's the venue itself, and the crowd will make sure she feels it. Every unforced error Kariva makes will be cheered, and every winner Eala hits will be celebrated like a buzzer beater in the NBA Finals, creating suffocating pressure for the visitor. Playing in hostile territory is one of the hardest challenges in sports, and in tennis, where mental fortitude is everything, where a single point can flip momentum, and where silence is meant to help you reset, having thousands of people actively rooting against you is brutal. The pressure on Eala, however, is different but just as intense. She must manage her nerves and harness the energy without letting it overwhelm her, because home court advantage is real but can also backfire. The desire to please the crowd, live up to expectations, and avoid disappointing fans who traveled hours to see you can tighten your game, and even players who thrive under pressure sometimes crumble at home when the emotional stakes are too high. But Eala views the crowd as a weapon, not a burden, saying she's happy to see so many Pinoys come out to support them and that it's incredible to watch the community rally behind her, leading to the country's first home tournament. She's framing the noise as fuel, extra energy when she's tired, and a reminder of why she's fighting, and that mindset could be the difference in a tight match. Tactically, Kariva is a baseliner who relies on consistency and flat power from the back of the court. She doesn't have a huge serve, but she's solid and forces opponents to beat her, a style that can be deeply frustrating for aggressive players. Eala, by contrast, is far more versatile, comfortable both grinding from the baseline and moving forward, using left-handed angles to pull opponents wide before finishing at the net. The key will be tempo. If Eala allows Kariva to settle into long baseline exchanges, the match could drag on, but if she keeps points short, uses her serve to set up quick winners, and mixes in drop shots and slices to disrupt Kariva's timing, she can seize control. Eala should be able to control the match, and the crowd will play a key role in helping her do it. The noise will make it harder for Kariva to focus, harder to stick to her game plan, and harder to execute under pressure. There's also the revenge factor. Athletes remember formative losses, and that 2020 defeat in Spain happened when Eala was still trying to prove herself and discover who she was as a player. Now she has the chance to close that chapter definitively. A win here wouldn't just advance her to the next round, it would symbolically demonstrate how far she's come, a statement that the 15-year-old who lost in Spain is gone, replaced by a top 50 player who belongs in the conversation with the world's best. Why does this matter? And why dedicate 5,000 words to a round of 32 match at a WTA 125 tournament? Because this is how sports change. For a century, tennis has been dominated by the West, the United States, Europe, and Australia, while smaller nations were guests at the table, expected to be grateful for the opportunity but not expected to challenge the established powers. But that is shifting. The Philippines, a country long obsessed with basketball and boxing, has found a new sporting religion. The collapse of Court 6 at the Australian Open was a warning shot, a demonstration that the demographics of tennis fandom are changing and that the fans are no longer content to watch quietly. They are ready to roar, to claim their place, and to demand that their champions be recognized on the world stage. The fans are younger, louder, and more diverse than ever. They don't want quiet, they want action, heroes who look like them. reflections of themselves on the court. For too long, tennis has been criticized as too white, too wealthy, too exclusive, and while the sport has made gestures toward change, real transformation comes from moments like this. The chaos that erupted at Court 6 in Melbourne has become a glorious opportunity in Manila. The Philippines, once one of the world's smallest tennis nations, didn't just break a stadium, they built a new one, figuratively and literally, in the heart of Manila, daring the world to come and beat them on home turf. At 20 years old, Eala is entering the prime years of her career, her body strong enough to endure the grueling tour, her mind mature enough to handle the pressure, and her game developed enough to compete with anyone. Over the next few years, she could become a top 20 player, a Grand Slam contender, or even something greater. This tournament marks the Philippines' arrival as a tennis destination. If it succeeds, more WTA events could follow, perhaps even a premier-level tournament, as the infrastructure, fan base, and talent pipeline are all taking shape. The Court 6 revolution wasn't a one-off, it was a declaration. Filipino fans are loud, proud, and here to stay. They will not sit quietly and clap politely. They will cheer, chant, and make their presence felt, forcing the tennis establishment to adapt. The match is today, and the world is watching. Eala has already proven she can beat top 10 players and handle Grand Slam pressure, and if she stays healthy and in form, breaking into the top 20 this year is realistic. Some analysts even suggest a push toward the top 15 with a breakout Grand Slam performance. Playing at home is a double-edged sword. The energy can lift her to new heights or crush her under expectations, and Kariva will try to exploit that pressure. But given everything Eala has already overcome, the grind of the ITF circuit, injuries, losses, and being underestimated, betting against her seems foolish. This isn't just about tennis, it's about representation, national pride, and the changing face of global sport. It's about a 20-year-old carrying the hopes of 115 million people with grace, humility, and killer forehands. Whether she wins or loses today, the larger story is already written. The Philippines has arrived in tennis, Eala is their champion, and the world will never underestimate them again.
Great, I'm super excited.
Champions Tennis Civics, signing off.
Coming in. Kamusta mga kapong Pinoy? Surprise! Excited na akong imbitahin kayong lahat na manood sa mga laban ko sa Mubadala Abu